Good evening. This is the May 14 meeting of the East Long Meadow Town Council. We'll begin the meeting now with a Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We ask that you keep our first responders and our servicemen and women around the globe in your thoughts this evening. Thank you. In accordance with Mass General Law, this meeting is being audio and videotaped, and I'm required to ask if there is anyone else in the audience doing the same. If so, would you kindly identify yourself? Hearing none, moving on. Under public comments this evening, Mr. Florence, nobody's registered. Number 4, council comments. Anyone? Okay. Zipping along, town manager's report. Denise.
Oh, yeah. Good evening, everyone. The council president and I had a great meeting with representatives from the governor's office, Patrick Carnevale, and to my surprise, I don't know if anybody else knew, John Torsha is working in the governor's West Springfield office. We had significant discussion about ideas for financing of school projects at the state level in the future. Mr. Carnevale had some interesting possible suggestions for changes in the way some of the funding is done that would probably be a good change. We also discussed the pending funding for the anticipated police station rehab and possible sources of funding for state mandated projects that I think I discussed at the last meeting, things like the stormwater, the Allen Street dump. If we're being mandated to do them by the state, is there any? And they couldn't think of any right off the bat, but there were some possible pools of money that they'll let us know about that maybe we can apply for something. I came away from the meeting with a better understanding of how to work within the state's parameters and feel that our concerns will be considered. The Easter egg hunt held on the rain date, and who knows what a rain date is anymore because there are more rainy days than rain dates. It was a great success with approximately 450 participants, sharing in not only the egg hunt, but a DJ, children's crafts, food trucks, face painting, and a magician. Thank you to all that assisted, the rec department with the event, the library pitched in, the Council on Aging, the Rotary Club. Building official Kevin Duquette reported a record number of building permits, approximately 87 submitted and or processed during the month of April. That means a busy spring and a busy summer for him. It's been a very busy season in planning and building. The town clerk's office officially moved to the town manager's suite of offices on May 7th. Stop by and check it out. It looks like it's working well. Everybody's, figuring out where they all fit into the whole thing, but it really, it doesn't look bad. To those of you that have seen it, it seems to be working okay. They actually built another, like the desk that Marge had, they didn't build a whole desk, but a reception area so that all the applications and stuff that the town clerk does can be processed at their counter. It looks really nice.
It does.
Yep. We received notification of approval for a $25,000 Community Compact grant to update the police department's policies and procedures. The Community Compact grants are fairly simple to administer, and they're also easy to apply for. You only need a brief statement. It's not a gigantic 20-page document like a lot of grants are. So that was excellent. It's a great way to fund small projects. It's not for big projects, but for small. I also received notification yesterday that we've been approved for an additional Community Compact grant of $55,000 for the community health assessment that we are going to use as part of the regional health department that we're trying to start up. So that's also another, that was a great surprise. Attached is a flyer for the upcoming 125th hydrant painting contest. And keep in mind, celebration of Memorial Day is on May 27th. Respectfully submitted, Denise Menard.
Any questions about Denise's report? Okay, moving on to approval of minutes. In your packet, you have a copy of the April 23rd open session minutes. Unless someone has corrections they would like placed on the record, I will entertain a motion to approve those.
So move. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the April 23rd open session meeting minutes. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say nay. Motion passes.
Abstention.
I'm sorry, Mr. Manley abstains. Next, in your packet as well, are the minutes from the April 29 open session meeting. If you have a moment to look them over, and unless there are corrections or additions you would like to note.
Proposed motion to accept the minutes of the April 29, 2019 open session minutes as proposed. So moved. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the April 29 minutes. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say nay.
Abstain as well.
So 5 ayes and 2 abstentions. Okay, thank you. Moving on to item 7, communication, correspondence, and announcements. Mr. Florence, do you have anything for us this evening?
Which is what's listed, the Girl Scout.
Okay. Oh, okay, and I was reading it wrong, incorrectly there. So in item 7A, we have a recognition for a Girl Scout Gold Award citation for Caitlin Tedeschi. Is Caitlin with us this evening? She is not. So perhaps we'll be able to reach out to Caitlin's family or the regional Girl Scout office, because
We'll make
what's
sure we'll get her the citation.
typical, though, she'll be presented with a citation. And my understanding is she'll receive this gold award at a annual celebration later in June. And for the Girl Scouts, the gold award is on the same parallel to, in the Boy Scouts, the Eagle Scout designation, if I'm not mistaken.
Congratulations to Caitlin.
Congratulations, that's a very high honor. Under 7B, a Health Department update by Health Director Amy Petrosky, as well as from our Board of Health, Dr. Sarah Perez McAdoo and Karen Robitaille. Ladies, welcome.
Thank you. So since we have a forum here, I'm going to just open the meeting for the Board of Health, but we are currently not recording. Amy, you want to start?
Yep.
Okay.
So thank you guys so much for seeing us. I know you have a long night in front of you, so we're going to make it as brief as possible, but interrupt us at any time. The first item that was on the agenda for tonight was the receivership program and some of our complaint data. About 8 months ago, there was a problematic home in town that raised a lot of concerns for some residents for why the health department wasn't using their authority that was stated under local bylaw 8.030B, which states we have the authority to correct and unmaintained yards, to place a lien on that property, and then to assess fees for processing on a continuing basis until the homeowner decides to come in compliance. Some of the residents were concerned that we weren't using that, so the health department wanted to come. That problem has now since been resolved, through a different mechanism, but we wanted to come and kind of discuss that option with you and what we do instead of using that bylaw if possible. So we have a partnership with the Attorney General's office, which works with abandoned properties in town. That first document that you have is a list of residences to date that have been put into that program and the status of the property and the progress of which they took. The Health Department actively and aggressively addresses unmaintained properties, and we feel that using that bylaw would place an undue burden on the resident. The second document that you see is the type of complaints we get, how many we've had, and the kind of the wave that we receive them. And on the second page of that document, you'll note that 46% of the complaints we get are relative to trash in yards, not our pickup, but people who have trash in their yards, or high grass, or a combination of the both. So at 46% of those being some of the complaints we have, we would have a huge burden on both our department and other departments in town if we were to ask, DPW or the clerk's office, collector's office, to place a lien on these properties so we could go and mow lawn. At this time of year, we'd be mowing the lawn every 7 to 10 days in order to keep it in compliance with the 8-inch bylaw. So our goal is to treat every situation as a whole and not to put pressure on people. We like to get long-term compliance and not just fixing the trash that might be on your property today. And you can see the complaints that we have, we do have most of them resolved within the first 10 days. Some of them do stretch out, and a lot of those are the ones that go into the program. It is a little bit longer to go through that, but we have a much better chance of long-term success in bringing that property back onto the tax payrolls and getting someone to move back into that property. Are there any questions about the receivership program or the way we're going with that?
Through the chair.
Yes.
One question, has this been posted, is this available on the website?
That which
The complaint list,
this one?
yeah, the addresses.
Oh, the receivership data. No, we haven't posted that anywhere.
Okay, do you think that would be beneficial for folks to know that it's there, that you're aware of it, that you're working on it?
Sure. We can certainly create a tab on our homepage that lists all the programs that are currently in the receivership program with the Attorney General's office. What's really great about that is we just become inspectors at that point. They do all of the court work for us, all the lawyers' fees. We don't have to do any of that. So besides just taking the house and making it better, it also takes the pressure off a lot of the town departments.
Yeah, sometimes folks, don't know what's going on behind the scenes, so they may have questions, or they may bring up the same issue again and again and again when it's already being dealt with by you, which is good.
Sure, we can certainly do
I
that.
have a question.
Yes,
Through the
Kim.
chair. 69 Brymauer Drive.
Yep.
Bryn Mawr Drive.
Yep.
It said May 10th. Do you know if anything's happened since May 10th with the
I know
court ruling?
Donna was in court this week for it. That's why Donna's here. She can answer any specific. Come on up, Donna.
So we did go into court on May 10th. It was held up in probate because Mass Health came in with a lien on the property. On May 10th, they lifted that lien. Mass Health made a deal with the family to take care of whatever was owed to them, and the judge lifted that lien. So the receiver is back into the property and moving forward.
So all good news.
Yes,
Good.
absolutely.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Any other
Okay.
questions? All right.
So if you can go to
we'll
your
move on.
second piece.
Great. So,
Great.
go ahead.
Sure. So just wanted to give you a little bit of an update on the Board of Health Action Plan for 2019. And each year, what we do is we identify and set community health priorities based on compliance with state health codes and regulation, and also in alignment with the community health needs assessment that was done back in 2015. The action plan actually focused on 4 primary areas. One is administrative goals, health protection, health promotion, and community education and engagement. And what we do is that we are able to share that action plan with the town council on a quarterly basis, just to keep you up to date with what the Board of Health and the Health Department is doing. And I also wanted to share a little bit of an update on the shared health services process that we're doing with the town of Long Meadow. And previously, we provided an update on the exploratory process, and that was to identify a model of public health services that is much more efficient, can streamline operations, maximize resources, and strengthen health services for both communities. And that year-long exploratory process was funded by a district local technical assistant grant from the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. So from that work, the town of East Longmeadow and Longmeadow applied for an efficiency and regionalization grant. We were awarded $55,000 to assist with the implementation of shared health services partnership. And this new funding is going to support the development of an intermunicipal agreement and a community health needs assessment that will help to inform operations and health services. And I'm going to pass it over to...
You want to just tell them a little bit what a health needs assessment is and why it's important?
Yes, I can do that. The Community Health Needs Assessment is going to require us to work with a consultant organization. And then what they do is they come in and they do, basically they do focus groups, they do in-depth interviews, and they also do a lot of data collection. It's quantitative and qualitative data that's collected. And it gives us an overall picture of the health status of the community. So that's critically important because it helps us to then prioritize our resources to what is most needed for the community. It also allows us to track progress on any programs or services that are implemented over time to see if it has had an impact, and it helps with accountability. And then it just helps us to reprioritize the next time an assessment is done. So we're hoping that this really provides a rich data and information about the health of the community that we can use to inform a lot of the work that we're doing. That's helpful.
And we'll benefit from this even if the shared services don't move forward with Longmeadow. This is really great opportunity for us to get the pulse of what's happening in East Longmeadow to help inform the programs and the education and outreach that we do for our residents. So it's a really awesome opportunity because otherwise at a fee of $55,000, it's not something locally we would have ever been able to afford. So we're really grateful for this opportunity. And then,
More good news.
yeah.
And part of the data that a health assessment would be looking at is the health of the youth of the community, which is sort of my specialty. So we're happy to report that in March, the school district, gave the Bach-Harrison Prevention Needs Assessment, which is a national survey. So now we're able to compare our youth risk behavior data to national norms, so not only local norms, but national norms to see how our students are doing. This assessment is a little different than you may have heard of the YRBS, which is what the state of Massachusetts uses. That really measures just risk data. So it looks at what substances students are using, what other risky behaviors they're participating in. The Bach-Harrison Prevention Needs Assessment is a little bit different because it not only looks at risky behavior, it also looks at protective factors. So what are the things in the community that are protecting our youth? I could tell you, I'm not going to divulge what the data shows, and we already have it back. They did it online, and we got it back in like 2 weeks. It was like a 2-week turnaround. It was amazing. The district is still unpacking it and looking at it, so I'm not going to divulge their data, but I can tell you that our students have very great sense of connection to their schools in particular, which is, it actually looks better than most communities that I've seen. So that makes me really proud and happy. So eventually what we'll do with this data is it'll go to the Youth Safety Committee, and they will use it to drive their interventions for the year. We're working with the City of Springfield under some grant funding that they have. And hopefully we'll be able to do some really great activities and interventions. Looking towards the future, you may know that the town of Longmeadow and the town of Hamden-Wilbraham both have federal grants to work on youth substance use prevention, a great deal of money over a period of anywhere from 5 to 10 years. And I think we're looking towards applying for one of those in the future, and this data is what's going to get us there.
Good. Karen, can you say what age group was surveyed? Was it
Sure,
6
we
to 12?
did 8, 10, and 12.
8, 10,
10,
and
and 12. Yep.
Great. So we can, if there are no other questions, we'll go on to the next one. So I think the big item of the day is the trash and recycling update. I think it was about a year ago today, Joe, that you said, what is going on with our trash situation and why are you asking for more money? And so this is a culmination of a year-long delve into what is going on with our trash situation. And which led us to holding the residents accountable for the 35-gallon limit that was placed back in 2008 with the Board of Selectmen. And you'll have some really great data that Alex was able to pull together comparing our tonnage recycling textiles from 2008 to 2019. And one of the things you'll see is in the last 5 months alone, we've been able to save over $21,000 just in the disposal of our trash.
Awesome.
And I think one of the things that has made this process that Liz did really fantastic is she didn't approach this in isolation. So in addition to telling our residents we have to maintain this 35-gallon limit, she created an abundance of programming around this. Some of that is we now recycle all the mattresses from the transfer station as instead of paying to dispose of them, which has led to a couple $100 savings. We offer household hazardous waste recycling instead of once a year, which is what it's been forever. We now can do it every day that the place in Westfield is open, NEDT. So I think they're open 5 days a week. Every household has $100 that they can use for the duration of the year to bring their household hazardous waste. So that's removing that from the trash stream. We've increased our recycling by over 50 tons. And also another heavy weight to our trash is textiles. So that's clothing, blankets, pillows, curtains. We've always had that bin behind the fire station for the last couple years. But what Liz did is start a program where they come to your house and collect it. I don't know if you've seen those pink bags in your mail. And that, let me see what my data is on that. And already we've more than doubled the total amount we collected in the entire year for last year with that pink bag program. And by removing it from our waste stream, so you equate those tonnage to what we pay to dispose of them, and we've saved $1,000 on just that alone, never mind the revenue that that's bringing in. And we've also increased our revenue for those green bags in town. So overall, in the last 5 months, we're looking at a total of $30,000 saved from our trash bill, which, and then you extrapolate that out, we could be looking at, $50,000 to $70,000 annually. So we think that this has been a very successful program. We wanted to share some of that data with you. What you have goes into a lot more in depth than what I went right now. So if you have any questions.
I would encourage you, Amy, to get that up on the website, because that's incredibly positive news. And it will reinforce some of the angst that we had to go through last year, or you were on the front lines and had to take it head on.
I think we all were on the front lines collectively.
The collective you.
Yeah.
But it should underscore how sticking to the program and being vigilant with how we dispose of things in our homes, those numbers couldn't get any better.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
That's good.
I'll certainly add that.
Nice job.
Thank you. So then for next steps, so trash and recycling is changing in Massachusetts. Kathy, I know you received some information on that recently from the state. So China is no longer taking the recycling that they used to be taking. What that is doing is we're renegotiating our recycling contract with the Merck Center in Springfield, and they're prepping us that we're going to now have to pay to dispose of our recycling just the way we pay to dispose of our trash. East Long Meadow is in a really great situation for that because we still have dual stream recycling, which makes our recycles a lot more valuable to places that want to buy them. But this means next year at budget time, I will be looking for more money to fund the disposal of the recycling. So we've never had to have that discussion before, but that will be on the table for next budget cycle. So what we're doing in anticipation to try to mitigate that cost of that expense is Liz has applied for a grant through the DEP to educate and inform our residents about how to properly recycle. So we received $20,000 we'll start after the first of the year. Liz will be able to get some student interns to educate, go out to the barrel just like we did this round, and help people understand what could be recyclable, what isn't recyclable, and there'll be outreach and education just like we did with this program. So hopefully through doing that, we'll be able to mitigate some of those costs that we're anticipating next fiscal year. And the other next step around trash is now that, I don't know if you've noticed, so everyone's down to that 35-gallon barrel, but then if you drive, you see the Tetris of the bags on top, and they're holding them on with bungee cords. So yeah, Liz is going to go around, and any of those bags that are just blatantly on top of a closed lid is tag those and leave those, and let people know if they want to dispose of those, they have to use the excess green bags. So that's the next step that we'll be starting. One other great thing besides the money saved by this recycling is that we have never had, since we started this, there's never been longer than a day delay on our trash pickup for our residents. And I know that was a huge problem. And it was a problem before the January debacle of last year. And it was historically a problem with the delays. We haven't had more than 1 day delay. Because the trucks are able to stay in town and they're out by like 2 or 3 o'clock every afternoon because the loads are more manageable to what we signed the contract for.
Excellent.
So, okay, sorry. Lastly, the MCD vote. So last spring, the Board of Health and I came to talk to you guys about our plan for mosquito control in town. And this year, everything is going to be close to the same, although now we have to take a vote of you. I'm asking you guys to take a vote to officially join us into the mosquito control district. There's no additional cost other than what's already been appropriated. And what that will get us is at least 36 traps in town to do surveillance of the type of mosquitoes and what those mosquitoes are carrying. And for the first time ever, that will include over-traps, which are the types of traps used to trap the Aedes albopictus, which is the mosquitoes that carry Zika virus. So we've never looked for that in town. It's not known to be this far north, but it was found in Connecticut last year. So these traps will be placed in East Long Meadow so we know if we have this type of mosquito present in our community and the different types of education and outreach we can do as a board and a health department for our residents to make sure we're protecting them.
Questions on that program before we take that motion?
I just want to make sure, I'm trying to understand what our commitment is going to be to this.
Right.
There's no monetary commitment from our town?
So in my budget, you guys last year and this year and historically have always approved money for mosquito control. Since the company that we used no longer was doing it, remember last year they raised it by like $40,000. This was the only way for us to get both the treatment and the surveillance. It's not just two separate, but it's all the same money that's already been appropriated. So the mosquito control district is looking for $5,000 for us to join, and that will cover all 36 traps, the sorting of the mosquitoes, the testing of mosquitoes, and it also gets us, if there were to be anything that happened in our community, it would get us emergency response from DPH, which people outside the district wouldn't have the same level of response support that they would give us.
And they would do the actual spraying as well?
Well, being part of the mosquito control district, they are not doing spraying right now. That's not in their scope of work. We hire a separate company we don't spray, we use the BTI pellets, which is consolidated, and we do mostly in our catch basins because those are really strong breeders of mosquitoes. So if there were to be an outbreak and we needed adulticiding, DPH would take care of that. That would, in conjunction with us, and they would need certain approvals to do it, but that would be on them.
Okay, in that case, I'll make a motion for the town of East Long Meadow to join the Pioneer Valley Mosquito Control District in order to continue its efforts to prevent the human impact from arboviruses such as West Nile virus and Eastern equine encephalitis in the community through surveillance and treatment of known breeding grounds.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the town of East Long Meadow joining the Pioneer Valley Mosquito Control District, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say nay. This motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, guys.
Amy and department. Appreciate all your work, and it's nice to have such positive information to put up on the website. Thank you. We're not ready for 6 o'clock yet. Okay. So, Mr. Florence, we're not ready for public hearing because it's only 5:30. Can we continue, or do we have to go out of order?
You just have to take it out of order.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion to bypass 8A, proceed to 9A until the time expires, only to return to 8A for our public hearing.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor of moving out of order to continue our normal business prior to returning at 6 p.m. to go forward with our annual budget public hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say nay. Motion passes. Okay, moving on then to 9, orders of the day. Licensing matters. Number 1, the approval of a one-day liquor license for the Scantic River Brewery for a fundraising dinner at the Knights of Columbus on May 19 from 4 to 8 p.m. In your packet, you have the one-day liquor license application. It has met all of the sign-offs and requirements by the appropriate department heads. I'll entertain a motion to,
I'll make a motion to approve a one-day liquor license for the Scandic River Brewery for a fundraising dinner at Knights of Columbus as reflected in the application for Sunday, May 19th from 4 to 8 p.m.
Second?
motion's been made and seconded to approve this one-day liquor license for the Scandic River Brewery for a fundraising event on May 19. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. Also in your packet is the approval of a one-day liquor license for St. Paul the Apostle for a wedding reception on May 25th, 2019, from 5 to 11. That's attached to your first document there.
Do you want the motion?
Sure.
I propose a motion to approve a one-day liquor license for St. Paul the Apostles for a wedding reception on May 25th, 2019, from 5 to 11 p.m.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to grant a one-day liquor license for St. Paul the Apostle Church for a wedding reception on May 25th. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say nay. This motion passes unanimously. As well, an approval of a one-day liquor license for St. Paul the Apostle for an annual feast celebration on June the 23rd from 1 in the afternoon until 9 p.m.
I'll make a motion to approve a one-day liquor license for St. Paul the Apostle for an annual feast celebration June 23rd, 2019, 1 to 9 p.m.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded to approve a one-day liquor license as well for St. Paul the Apostle for their annual feast celebration on June 23rd. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say nay. That motion as well passes unanimously. And our last item under licensing matters is the approval of a change of manager for Mario's Cafe Ambiance, and we have those folks with us. Thank you.
Good evening, thank you for having us. Daniel Kelly, I'm the attorney for Mario's Cafe Ambiance. I have to my left Ms. Berard, who's the proposed new manager of the license. As you're probably aware, you licensed Mario's Cafe Ambiance. It's right down the street. It's an Italian restaurant. Hopefully you've all been there and enjoyed it. This is a change of manager. The current manager is retiring. Karen has been there for the past 3 years. She's been working as the head waitress. If you've been there, she may have waited on you or sat on you. She is familiar with all of the ABCC regulations regarding liquor service. Everyone there is tip certified. There's a roster of 10 servers. They're all tip certified. It's a condition of employment. And I think from the outside looking in, from the regulatory standpoint, you'll notice no difference whatsoever, except when you go there, she'll be the face of the franchise, so to speak.
There you go. Thank you. It's pretty routine. These types of matters have come before us in the past. We appreciate the update on that. We'll entertain a motion.
I propose a motion to approve a change of manager for Mario Cafe Ambiance, Inc., 60 Shaker Road, to Miss Karen Berard.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve a change in manager for Mario's Cafe Ambiance. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say nay. That motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Attorney Kelly and Ms. Berard, congratulations and good luck with everything.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, under 9B, financial matters, this has been a standard piece on our council budget during the budget season. However, there will not be a financial oversight committee update this evening. However, the members of that committee will be present specifically to hear and take notes on the public input, and they will be back in front of us a week from tonight on what month is this?
21st.
May 21st, with their final recommendations for the council. Mr. Florence, we have no old business. Do we have new business? The summary of action items, we probably should delay that until the very end. And then finally, this evening, we do have a need to go into executive session to discuss a tax incentive proposal. What I would like to propose is we still have 20 minutes before we can legally start the public hearing. In the interest of being time efficient, rather than recessing for 20 minutes, I would recommend or entertain a motion that the council adjourn to our usual meeting room. It's locked.
Let me see if I have it.
Ryan,
Oh, Mr.
Ryan, you
Quimby,
can do anything.
with the magic key and the clip,
Come on,
and
MacGyver,
then
get
we,
us in
and the
there.
audience can remain seated, and we will be back. This discussion should not take a whole lot of time for us. So that said, I will entertain that motion for the council to excuse itself for just a few minutes.
So moved. That's okay. So moved. Can we second?
All those in favor of,
Roll call.
Roll call vote.
yes, we have to do a roll call vote, thank you. Have to do that. So from the left here, Counselor Ford,
Yes.
Counselor
Yes.
Manley,
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
Mr. Kane,
Yes?
and Mr. Federici.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. We will excuse ourselves, and we will be back shortly, and certainly in enough time to convene the public hearing at 6 p.m. Thank you. Unanimously, and we are just minutes away from our public hearing, and as trivial as it sounds, I do have to wait until it is 6 o'clock. So we'll move to that very quickly in a few moments.
I feel like we need the music for Final Jeopardy.
Yeah. Does anybody care to sing? Fill in some time? Like the music in the dentist's office when you're on hold?
Yes. Elevator music. Wait a minute, it's like taking longer to turn my phone on. I could do that.
We're actually moving along very
Yes.
nicely.
Are you gonna go through line by line? That's what we did last year. Item by item.
Yes. Guys.
Do they have the copies and they're the same as our copies? 29?
Ladies and gentlemen, there are copies of the budget over here on a side table where this gentleman is approaching, if you would like to have something to refer to. Is it 6?
Very soon. I'll tell you the moment it says.
It's like waiting for the ball to drop.
We are 15 seconds away.
No, we're just going to do it. We're not going to go by line.
Okay.
5 seconds.
Actually, they probably know the thing, so, you
They
know.
know what they want to say, I
Yeah.
think.
No, we don't have to go through the whole thing. 6?
It is 6 o'clock.
Okay, good evening. We are at item number 8 on the agenda, and this is a public hearing to hear public comments regarding the town manager's proposed FY20 operating budget. Let me give you the public hearing protocol so that everyone understands the parameters under which we are required to operate. The reason for this public hearing is to present the town manager's proposed operating budget for fiscal year 2020 to the public for their comments as outlined by Article 6, Section 1 of the East Long Meadow Home Rule Charter. I will begin by introducing the council members from left to right. Councilors Ford, Manley, Anderson, Hill, Kane, O'Connor, and Federici. This is a public hearing, and the procedure will go as follows. I will open the public meeting. The clerk will read the legal notice into the record. As president of the council, I will give the audience an overview of the budget process. This meeting is being recorded, and I will ask all persons who are speaking, when they come to the microphone, to please identify themselves clearly and state their home address for the record. I ask that anyone wishing to speak be direct, to the point, and try as best you can not to be redundant. All speaking parties at the microphone are required to address the presiding officer, not anyone in the audience or the manager. After the public has addressed the council, I will then close the public portion of the hearing. At that time, the council has the opportunity to discuss among themselves the matters pertinent to the FY20 operating budget proposal. And then finally, the council will then take the budget matters under advisement, and that is because a week from this evening on May 21st, and we appreciate your attendance this evening and encourage you to return on the 21st, because that is the time that our Financial Oversight Subcommittee will give its final recommendations to this council, and the council will move forward with instructions to the manager and the director of finance to put together the final document that this council will vote on May 28th. That said, I am now going to open the public hearing. Mr. Florence, will you read the legal notice into the record, please?
In conformity with the requirements of Mass General Law, the East Long Meadow Town Council hereby gives notice that it will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, May 14th, 2019, at 6 p.m. in the auditorium at the Council on Aging, 328 North Main Street, East Long Meadow, to review the proposed FY20 operating budget as outlined by Article 6, Section 1 of the East Long Meadow Home Rule Charter. For the Town Council, Thomas Florence, Clerk of the Council.
Thank you. As the presiding officer this year of the council, I'm now going to give you an overview of the budget process to date. Just as a simple reminder that in 2016, East Long Meadow moved to a home rule charter where the Board of Selectmen was replaced by a town manager, and the appropriations and capital planning as well as town meeting was replaced by this body right here, 7 members elected at large. That said, I want everyone to understand that the most important task of the town council is the appropriation for the annual operating budget. This council takes that responsibility extremely importantly, and to that end, I want to back up about 6.5 months to October and November of 2018 to tell you when the budget process actually began. And that occurred when, on 2 separate occasions, the town council conducted budget workshops to review information and decide and instruct the manager and director of finance on the types of information and data points that we would request as necessary to do a good job with trying to appropriate a budget. We also, as a council, received some training on debt service and obligations, as well as on the principles of public bonding. In November of 2018, capital requests from department heads were due to the town manager. In January of 2019, the line item budget requests were due to the town manager, as well as the capital planning committee appointed by the manager met with the manager and the director of finance 8 times to review requests and make a recommendation to the council. In March of this year, the manager provided the council with a draft FY20 budget. And then last month, April of 2019, the Financial Oversight Subcommittee appointed by the council president began to meet. To date, the subcommittee has met 8 times for approximately 20 hours, and that's exclusive of work done at home. The teacher in me is compelled to use the word homework. In addition to that, I can tell you that the subcommittee will be meeting again tomorrow, as well as on Friday, and likely again next week, so that we can grab hold of as much time as possible to get a budget recommendation that fits the town of East Long Meadow and its taxpayers. Tonight, the council will hear input from the public on the proposed budget. In simple terms, this proposed budget totals $62,855,746, an increase of approximately $549,230. Give or take, that represents a 5.98% increase, or in terms of what taxpayers are most familiar with, as it stands right now, a $22.07 tax rate for fiscal 2020, which begins on July 1st of 2019. As I stated a few minutes ago, the May 21st, just 7 days from now, our Financial Oversight Subcommittee will make its recommendation to the council. They are present this evening in the audience and here at the table. The subcommittee is made up of a former assessor, Christine Saunier, former appropriations member and capital planning member, Jim Broderick, who bring an incredible skill set to the table with decades of experience under the previous form of government to the town, as well as Councilors O'Connor and Kane. As council president, I sit as a non-voting ex officio member of that subcommittee. That said, I can also tell you, as we listen to your comments this evening, that the proposed budget is just that. No decision has been made, and I can say with almost certainty that my colleagues at this table absolutely understand that a $22.07 tax rate is a burden that is too difficult to bear for these taxpayers that sit before us, as well as those who may be watching or waiting to hear information. So please understand, there have been no decisions made tonight. We need your input. Imagine that this is in the old form of government town meeting. We've all come to town meeting ready to state our input. And so that said, the public hearing is open, and I encourage you to please come forward. We need to hear your voice and your input.
Good evening. I'm Dawn Starks, 28 Elm Street. Thank you for explaining the process. Thank you for having a financial oversight committee with citizens with real experience on it. I applaud you for that. I also want to thank you for realizing that the over $22 per thousand is excessive at this point in time. My fear is that we will live in a town where seniors cannot afford to live, where our children cannot afford to live in the hometown they grow up in without living in with mom and dad, and that we will have a town that consists of drive-by residents who are here for the 12 years that our children go to school, and we have a superb school system, so that is understandable. I want to get back to the 22 per thou. As a former member of Appropriations, everyone here heard us talking about the trains coming down the track to 25 per thou. Here's my fear. We go to 22, we have schools, we have roads, we have infrastructure. We have big ticket items down the road that we need to be able to fund. If we go to 22, where do we have? How much room do we have to play? We don't have that much room. And my fear is that the further we go down that road, the closer we'll be to the 25, which means automatic cuts. Most budgets are 80% services and personnel. That means real people losing real jobs. I have a fear of that. The other thing is going to say a Prop 2.5 override. It's unpopular, and if you look at the statistics in Massachusetts, they do not occur very often anymore because they get voted down. So thank you for listening, and I'm just going to kick off with one question and not dominate this because I think other people probably have similar questions. I guess my first question is, and is this a question and answer? Can we get answers, or are we just giving input?
What I would like to do, Ms. Starks, is hear input.
Yep.
We will have someone here at the table record those questions, as well as our assistant clerk is doing that, and we will go back to those.
Okay, super, thank you.
Well, actually, if you tell us the questions, we'll write them down and go back and answer them.
Sure. I was wondering if we could see a breakdown of full-time employees and part-time employees, the numbers and the cost over the past 3 years by department, and also what the requested additional new hires are with their numbers and cost.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else, please?
Good evening, Greg Thompson, 426 Porter Road. Just wondering, the chair spoke about the council's acknowledgement that they weren't necessarily, excuse me, happy with the $22 tax rate. Do they have a specific tax rate in mind that they're trying to achieve, and have they shared that with the town manager and the finance subcommittee so that they can come back with a recommendation that meets that?
Thank you. The microphone's open. It's very important for us to hear input. Thank you.
Good evening, Phil LaRosa, 61 Harwich Road. Kathy, to say that we'd be unhappy with $22 per thousand is an understatement. We don't even have on the books yet, or in close proximity, a new high school, and that's coming. That's the first thing we need. It's very important. I understand there's going to be other increases in our water services. We're going to have the storm fee coming up starting shortly, and then more new positions. I just don't know where the council thinks that retired people, that's where I find myself today with fixed income, how we're going to remain in this town. You're driving us out. Long Meadow's tax is a little higher, but they've got a brand new school. Wilbraham is about even with us, and they've got a brand new school. That's very important to this community. In my case, someday I'm going to need to sell our home, and that's going to be important whether we have a good school system here or not. We need to do something. We need to get control of it. We need to be realistic and understand there's a lot of people here that you have a small group here, but there's a big part of this town that doesn't even know what's going on until their taxes show up. It's important that we be realistic and be responsible. We don't need a lot of new positions. We really, really don't. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Kathy Hood, 505 Chestnut Street. Just a point of correction, Kath, you're going to get input from us. So people, this is our voice. And if you got to get up, you got to talk. Because I don't want like 5 of us to speak when I would say that a lot of the town is asleep on this until they do get their tax bill. I got my tax bill, it went up $340. I don't know what changed. Now you're telling me you want to go to 2207, and I agree with the former speaker. We have a school coming up. There's big ticket items. We're going to give you our input, and then tell me the process. You're going to go back to this committee. You're going to take our input. How do we know, except if we come back next week, that there's going to be a change? I mean, I don't know how to fix it, believe me, but we do need to tighten our belt, just like we do in our homes every year. I can't afford it, I don't buy it. And we're at that point now, and you are driving the elderly out. I feel bad. I've grown up in this town my entire life. I gave 32 years to the school department. That's where my heart is, but we all the department heads need to take a better fiscal look at it. Don't come back and tell me next week when I come again that it's going to be 2207, because you're our voice. And although the voice might not be loud here, we can make it loud. But we're not happy. I'm definitely not happy. I'm retiring, so I'm going on a fixed income. My taxes can't go up $1,000 in 2 years, and that be okay.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening. I'm Ralph Butler, 4 Elmcrest Street here in town. March 6th this year, I've been 53 years in this town, plus 10 years as a child with my parents living here. I love this town. I don't want to leave it. I spent 29 years on the fire department, retiring as a deputy chief. I think it's time for the industry in town to pick up a bigger share of our taxes. And that's all I got to say. I think it's time for industry to pick up more of our share. Thank you.
Just as a follow-up to your comment, Mr. Butler, that is a point that we will refer to our assessors. I see one assessor in the audience this evening, and I will make sure that they are aware of that, because they will be coming to us shortly. Well, for the next time. Now, right now we have a single tax point rate, but we have the option every year, and we're required to act on it, whether to go with a split tax rate or a single pay rate for businesses as well as residences. So your comment is noted, and I will make sure that the assessors department is aware of that. So I saw some others start to stand. Well, there are 2 assessors in the audience. Here's one now.
Hi, Marty Grudgeon, 19 Cross Meadow, and Chairman Board of Assessors. The tax rate would be devastating for the taxes in town, and it would eliminate the future vote of the high school. Whether you wanted it or not, those people would not vote for the high school. As far as the split tax rate, we actually don't. We do recommendations, but we don't vote on it. You guys
That's
vote
correct.
on the split
I'm
tax
sorry for
rate.
that. You're right.
And in the future, so if you want a recommendation, I would recommend a hiring freeze.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. My name is Bob Dobick. I did own Buckley's Pharmacy at one time. It was next to the town hall. I'm just getting up to voice my opinion. You know, a few years ago, we had a little problem in this town and changed government. And everybody was just so elated with this kind of money, $62 million. I've been out here almost 50 years. If we cannot contain and spend what we have only, there's a problem. Everybody that has a household or running a household has to stay within their budget. Now, there's a lot of people with a lot of talent here. There should be some way that you can cut. My biggest question was, how many people have we hired in the past couple of years? That's already been addressed. And she did a great job. I really want to know that answer. because I ran a business for 28 years in this town, and in the last year, when pharmacy changed and we weren't making a profit anymore, I closed. Went to work for another company. So, you know, we just got to get a handle of it. The responsibility lies with right here and here. Now, how we do that, we better do it from a very prayerful, I said enough. I'm telling you.
Thank you, sir.
Connor O'Shea, 20 Tanglewood Drive. I echo the previous sentiments that 11 new positions proposed is excessive, and that the estimated tax rate is actually off the chart on page 13. It literally is. The chart doesn't go big enough to show it. Regarding the one-to-one Chromebook devices, I'm a software developer, so I'm a proponent of technology, but I'm skeptical of this program. I expected to see other expenses decrease to compensate. Instead, copiers were actually mentioned as an increase on page 7. To me, that shows a lack of commitment to using the devices for more than a supplement to the existing teaching materials. Likewise, if I recall correctly, the superintendent in a previous meeting mentioned tech cafes. I may be mistaken, but it seemed like it was optional. If this is such an important and instrumental activity of the school committee, why are they optional? Shouldn't we be moving forward with full strength? Likewise, when I was in high school not very long ago, there was a big initiative to have these smart board-like devices that were stuck to the whiteboard. The only time these things were ever used was when the teachers were being evaluated. The other 179 days a year, they sat there unused. The emphasis seems to be heavy on the device itself, hence the one-in-one name, but it seems to be less about the perceived increase in learning that we actually want. It seems like a very expensive couple $100 pencil. And this is not just a capital project this year, this is a financial commitment to regularly spending $300,000 or more every couple years to refresh the equipment that's either damaged or out of support. I can see this hitting hard in the coming years as building repair or replacement and other school capital projects can continue to come before the council. It's not to say that education isn't important, but increasing the budget beyond the already $31.4 million is excessive. Regarding the Pine Knoll upper lot paving, I agree with sentiments in the previous town council meeting that we should not use the casino mitigation fund for paving the parking lot. These funds should go towards paving roads that are actually used by residents every day, of which we know that we have a big backlog of work for. And I also question why we continue to dump tons of money into Pine Knoll after we had just put in an expensive swimming pool for a facility that's not open and accessible to the public to use the whole premise at any time. If these projects are things that need to be completed, why are they not offset by the income of the rentals and that the day camp generate? And if that income is not enough, shouldn't the fees be reconsidered? Regarding the town hall trailer mount generator, I'd argue that the town hall is the least important building to have power during emergency situations. Police, fire, and designated shelters like Bircham Park and this building are the only necessity. It's a lot of money to spend for something that will hopefully sit idle for most of its useful life. As far as it being mentioned in the proposed budget that it's vital for critical staff to communicate with residents during emergency situations, if the residents don't have power, how are you effectively reaching them? Regarding the roadway improvement, I do agree that spending is necessary. There are plenty of roads that are in disrepair. And then regarding sewer drain camera replacement and mini excavator, since we've been without either of these and either they don't work or we don't have one for the past year, how is the work currently getting done? If it's getting done either by contracting out the service or by renting such equipment, is that the most cost-effective way rather than purchasing this? Regarding the F-250 truck with utility body, that seems like an expensive vehicle for a foreman to use. That's all. Thank you.
For the record, Mr. Shea, you raised some questions that have honestly been debated in our Financial Oversight Subcommittee. Thank you. Someone else? Yes, ma'am.
Lisa Dagnoli, 256 Millbrook Drive. I'm just here to reinforce the sentiment of everybody else. You know, a tax rate, I would understand if it was, I guess, for something that, you know, would help the whole community and, you know, like I guess I'm really for the new school. I could see a tax rate increase for that because it's a value to the entire community, but I don't see these things as a value to the entire community. I just think, same as these people, you're driving some people out, and we don't see the value. So another question is, you know, I run a business in town as well with my family, and 11 new people, I mean, that's, you know, I agree with these people. It's like, that's got to be looked at. Can we afford it? You know, can we afford these new people? That's a lot of positions. That's a lot of staff and pay and benefits. So I think you guys need to take a hard look. I agree with everybody here that I don't think this is a good move for the town. I think people are moving out. They're looking at different schools. And you're essentially closing the door on the new high school. I mean, if you increase the tax rate already, and then we're looking at a new school where we're going to increase the tax rate again, you're pushing more families out. You're not only pushing the elderly out, but you're pushing the families out. We want the new school. A lot of the families want it. And, you know, the other communities have it. So people are going to look elsewhere. I mean, there's already been talk. I'm a parent. There's kids, you know, that are looking at private schools. There's just, you know, we really need to take a hard look at this. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, absolutely.
Seems like we might be done here, so I just thought I'd bring something up for your consideration. And I'd like to see a program someday where the seniors have their tax rate locked at a certain period of time in town, say 25, 30 years, they lived here, they've been paying taxes, their kids have gone to school, they paid their dues, they've done it. Now it's time for the senior to be taken care of, so to speak. In other words, set the tax rate at whatever they pay at that 30 years in town. They pay that for the rest of the time they're in town until they go to the cemetery. If they make improvements on their home, that's a different story. The tax rate gets readjusted and they pay that again now until they go to the grave. But there ought to be some kind of program where seniors on fixed income, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of seniors, and we see a ton of them over off of Chestnut Street that have all kinds of money in the world. I'm not worried about those. I'm worried about people like me and a few others I know in the audience here. We need some kind of relief at a certain point in time in order to stay in this town. And I'd like some consideration of that. I'm not sure how we'd pay for it or how it would work or if it would even work. But in my mind, it sounds like it's a plan that might have some merit. Thank you. Oh, one other thing. I happen to notice, I believe in a reminder, where one of our neighboring towns is asking their taxpayers to buy a dump truck for $200,000 plus. I hope to God I never see a dump truck in this town for $200,000 plus. It must have gold-plated wheels and mink seat covers. And I hope the surrounding town votes it down, but anyway, I did see that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments, please? Yes, sir.
Mark Grabowski, Hazelhurst Avenue, East Long Meadow. I apologize for not knowing too much about all this stuff. I want to thank Mr. La Rosa for inviting me to come tonight, because I didn't know a thing about it. I don't know if it was advertised in the paper that there was a meeting.
Yes, sir.
I apologize if there was, and I didn't read it, but I apologize. Rather than cutting budgets and cutting everybody's salary and services, I think we should take a look at some of the vendors that we're using. I mean, $50,000 for a car. Like everybody else says, it's a little outrageous to purchase something and not have someone say, can we get a lower bid? a vendor that we know or we trust that can give us a price that's better than what we've been doing in the past. I really think that, I've looked at this briefly, so I apologize for not going through it a little more in detail, but there are certain things in here that can be, I think, can be cut back on as far as not salaries or not individual people or jobs, although I agree with the job freeze. Certainly, there's other things in here we could take a closer look at and say, let's take 2% of that off the budget versus taking 2% and adding it to our taxes. I think that makes more sense than anything else. So, about all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Other speakers, please.
Jonathan Torsha, 79 Tompkins Ave. So I think I kind of agree with a lot of the people that have come up here earlier. I think a tax rate of 22.07 would be, I think, too high, not just for the seniors, but also for people who might be in their 20s like myself, who may want to decide to stay here, who went through the school system, who got to really love the community and stay here, because it might not be that affordable. You know, some of us will need to be paying off college debt and other types of debt, and you know, having a high tax rate like this, we may not be able to stay in this community or afford to move to this community if we are outside of the area. I will say, being in the high school recently, I think there's a lot of merit to the one-to-one program. We use the Chromebooks very frequently from some of the classes that I was in. Some of the other technology, you know, there's teachers that, you know, do a really great job teaching and may not completely always use the technology. So some of it may not be as used as much, but there is a lot of merit to it. You know, something as simple as saving paper, you know, that could be a financial, fiscally responsible move, and the technology could be really helpful for that. So from what I found being at the high school, and I think at one point, you know, we're going to have to decide and, you know, move to rehabilitate the high school or do something to the high school to make it into better shape, to, you know, spruce up laboratories, to do things like that so that, you know, our children could keep getting a quality education. But I think now is not the time to raise taxes this much, as somebody mentioned earlier, you know, going literally off the charts. You know, we need to find the ways to, you know, tighten the buckle. You know, we all do it, so I think this town should consider that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Other speakers, please?
Ralph Page, 306 Prospect Street. Obviously, I agree with the public here. The 2207 is just way above what I ever would have considered as an appropriate budget. I'm looking at a $1.52 increase. So if you own a $300,000 house, you're going to get hit with a $456 increase. You're going to get hit with a $25 stormwater fee. You're going to get hit with another 10% for water and sewer. I talked to 6 residents today, and they all said to me, I can't make it, so you're going to be my voice. Tell them, we can't afford this. I'm here to tell you that a lot of these seniors in town, they can't afford a $500 increase if they own a $300,000 house. God forbid you own a nice, you know, $700,000, $800,000 house, because you're going through the roof with this. I've looked at the budget. I think there's plenty of room for cutting. I think some of the positions that are being asked for aren't necessary. And we really need to get to the nuts and bolts of this and bring it down to something that's reasonable. I know you have a finance committee. I know they're listening. I hope next week, as they give their report on it, that you also listen to them. I have the utmost respect for them from many, many years of watching them work. In the past government, they've always done a fantastic job for this town. So I would encourage you to listen to everything that they have to say and take it to heart. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. I'm Roland Bolduc. I live at 110 Smith Avenue. My question is what impact is this going to have on the younger generation? They don't hang around long in jobs. The word is with them, if they're at a job for more than 5 years, and I've heard this firsthand from younger people, that they don't stick around. They say they get stale. They'll bounce to another job. I recently lost a neighbor, went to Hamden, lower taxes. If we're not going to be something that they're going to be looking at because of our tax rate, which they most certainly look at when they move into town, they're going to be looking elsewhere. So our tax raising is going to make us stale. Has that even been thought of what we're going to do to our future? Never mind to the people who are in this room concerned about hitting that $22 tax rate. It's going to be hard on everybody in the town, and it's going to be even harder when no new blood moves into town. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Shirlene Bolduc. I live at 110 Smith Avenue. I just kind of want to reiterate a little bit what my husband said. I'm a fourth generation East Long Meadow resident, and my daughter, when she recently got married, chose not to move to East Long Meadow. They moved out to Feeding Hills, and one of the reasons is they can't afford the taxes. My concern is keeping young people in this town and inviting new people into this town. If the tax rate is too high, like my husband said, the people that are here are going to find it difficult to stay, especially our elderly, because they're on fixed incomes, and the young people won't be coming in because the tax rates are too high and they can find other places to live. So it's just a comment that I wanted to make. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hi, Rich Fitzgerald, 9 Channing Road. I'm hearing a lot of concerns about the budget, but I do want to say one thing, that I think it's important that we move forward as we've done. This town council should feel very good about themselves with our extraordinary accomplishments that have happened the past 2 years. Am I correct? We now have a 24/7 fire department. We now have our own ambulance service. We've improved the structures of the schools, buildings, improved the town structures. So I think it's important we still continue to move forward. So as you look at this budget, I mean, a lot of concerns about cutting. I think it's important that you balance those things that are very important with cutting, because we have to continue to move forward, and this town council should be proud of themselves with the accomplishments you've already done. Thank you.
Yeah, good evening. John Harding, 134 Old Farm Road. You know, I'm not that knowledgeable on what we're spending money on right now, because I guess I get all my information from the Facebook feed. I don't know where else to find it. I guess I'll learn. But if we're going to increase the taxes and we're not going to improve the high school, then there's something wrong. You know, I spent 20 years in the Marine Corps where we did more with less. And I'm questioning, you know, my wife and I look at each other at home and we say, where's all our tax money going? You know, we believe, yeah, suspect there's some type of mismanagement. We talk to our neighbors, and I don't mean to get up here and accuse anybody, because I really don't know. I just look at the roads and we're not impressed. We're not impressed with the infrastructure. We're not impressed with the schools. You know, we can keep putting Band-Aids on the schools, but that's not getting us where we should be, you know? So now we're going to increase taxes, and where's that money going to go? We're going to hire additional people? You know, I did another 8 years in the Army after the 20 in the Marine Corps, and I saw money wasted every day. That's why I had to leave. It was disgusting, you know, and now I work for myself as a lawyer. But I'm questioning, you know, what are we really doing here if we're not taking care of our kids? We chose to move here because of what we thought the school system was. We got here and we're, oh, holy moly, what did we get ourselves into? We should have gone to Longmeadow, or we should have gone to Wilbraham, you know, where they seem to value the schools there a little bit more. And again, I don't want to come off as accusatory, but I don't know. I think I'm going to have to do my homework now that we went all in on our home over on Old Farm, you know, and then every quarter we're paying that hefty tax bill. But if it is increased, you know, I mean, I don't know why we're renting things here. And I echo a lot of the comments that have already been made. Why would we rent something if we're going to need something for the long term? You know, and then I look at I'm coaching baseball now in town, I look at the fields. I'm not impressed with that either. You know, and I know there are reasons or excuses why they're not in great shape, but for what it's worth. I'll do my homework now and I'll look. I don't even know where this was posted or if it was, but I think we need to be a little bit more transparent, get word out. Thank God I heard from Mr. Page here that this meeting was tonight, or else I wouldn't have known about this. And I would have seen the increase in the taxes probably. But thank you.
Just for the record, as it relates to advertising for this hearing this evening, there were two successive reminder in the last two issues where the notice was posted. In the May 9th issue, the most recent one, there was a print ad stating that the hearing time had changed to 6 from 5. A robocall went out this past Friday evening at 7. So, and I believe the proposed budget is on the website. So we have, the council has done as much as we can to make sure that this meeting was publicized. Are there other comments?
My name is Sean Coughlin. I live at 71 Southbrook Road. And I have a lot to say, but I'm going to keep my mouth quiet tonight. The only thing I wanted to speak to is that I think there would be a whole lot more people here if the notice was better given. You might have said there was a meeting, but so many people think these meetings they can't speak at anymore. I bet you there are dozens of people sitting home tonight because they said, why bother? I'm not going to have a voice. I don't see anywhere on a notice that said I would have an opportunity to speak at this meeting. I came hoping that I would, but I didn't know. I almost turned around and didn't come. I have other things to do. But I think there would be a whole lot more voices here if those notices said, this is a meeting that you can actually speak at. Because I don't think anybody feels like they have a voice in this town anymore.
Thank you. That's duly noted. We will advertise that differently next year for that reason, or emphasize that public input is being sought. Other speakers? Connor.
One additional comment. I noticed like the Collins Center wage study had just been recently completed. I wonder what the motivation was for the town to then, given the results back from that study, to increase or decrease, or cap, I should say, wages in different positions. I mean, if we're concerned about attrition, is that such a bad thing if we're looking to save cost? Additionally, even if we were to adjust an increase, did we have to do it all in 1 year? And I know it's water under the bridge, but going forward, it seems like that was a big expenditure in this proposed budget, was just catching up from a study for things that we didn't even move forward on.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Craig Jernstrom, 799 Parker Street.
I've been a volunteer on the Conservation Commission for about 9.5 years in town now, and we are uncompensated volunteers. I don't turn in mileage and that sort of thing, and I pretty much average 10 to 15 hours a week working on the commission. And in the last 3 weeks, I've actually done over 20 site visits. I actually did one on the way here today, so I'm just picking at this one item that I saw that I'm amazed at, that $6,750 was the stipend for the school committee for last year, and now they're asking for $18,000, 166% increase. I know it's a small number, but just kind of have to disagree with it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, I'm John Mazzarino, 11 Valley View Road, Williamsburg, Mass. If we allow this thing to go forward, this budget, how far away are we from debt exclusion? If we're a big budget item like the high school or something like that. I'm posing this as a question. What I'm asking the council to do is act responsibly and squash this thing before it gets off the ground. Thank you.
Thank you. I know, but he wants property here so he can speak, unfortunately. Anyone else, please?
Billy Gorman, 243 Allen Street. I was a former selectman, so I know a little bit more about what's going on, but I've been a little tied up with family problems, but from what people still call my house. And the problem, I don't know if you can hear me, because we had trouble hearing you over here, but I think what's going on in this town right now is worse than when the 3 selectmen were there, because we're hiring all these people are having assistants for assistants for assistants. We're spending money. Since this committee started, I thought this committee was going to be about saving money for the town and lowering taxes for the people. I busted my rear end as a selectman at a town meeting to try to get the taxes lowered or at least frozen for people over 70 years old. Because these people in this town, like somebody else was saying here, we're forcing these people to go live somewhere else after they lived in town all their life. And it's a sad state that we do that. Because these people on Social Security on a fixed income can't afford another dime of their taxes going up. And since the committee started, or we changed the way of government, I should say, we've been doing nothing but spending money. I mean, you see from when I got out of office from now on the money we spent and what's going on in town here, it's ludicrous. I mean, we're making positions all over the place. We're hiring people all over I bust my neck to get a health agent. And as some of the selectmen that were with me know, it took a lot to get one health agent. Now we got 4 health agents. I mean, I just don't understand what's going on in this town. 2 and 2 don't make 4 anymore. And there's no transparency whatsoever. I started an open checkbook thing, and I see nothing on that anymore. Because I was told that open checkbook, which was supposed to be everybody's raises in there, what we're spending for, and people keep calling me. I told, hey, look, I put the thing in. I don't know what they're doing. Call the people on the board. I'm not an official no more. But I feel bad for people. I feel bad for the older people in town, because it's a shame that you can't live in town and stay in town, you know, because of the taxes. And you can't just be working a job to pay taxes. You should be able to retire and enjoy retirement somewhat. But it's a shame what's going on. I mean, I don't know how true it is, but I'm going to bring it out at this meeting in front of these people anyway. I heard we want to get a captain on the police department, which we don't need. We're only a force of 27 people. What do we need a captain for? We got 4 or 5 sergeants on there right now. They want a captain for the police, for the fire department. We don't need this. This isn't Worcester or Springfield, but that's what it looks like they're trying to do in this town, is make it something that we don't need. Yeah, they have nice fire trucks and nice cruisers here and there. They want a pickup truck for the police department in town. What's it for? So they can bring their garbage to the dump? We don't need a pickup truck as a police officer's car. I mean, it's a shame what's going on, but half the people in town really don't know what's going on or what's being spent or what it's for. So I'm getting up there talking because I feel the main problem here is the taxes, and I feel sorry for the people. We shouldn't be raising taxes. We should be trying to lower them. The people in this town need a break from taxes. They don't need to keep going up and up and up, and you're going to work more and more and more to try to survive. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Gina Bergamini Shinkaru, 6 Taylor Avenue, born and raised in town, second generation. There's a question that I've always had that I've never understood. Okay, I know we're all talking about expenses, we need to cut expenses. Where's any increase in income? I mean, all these builders are coming in building houses. Is the town getting any money from this? Once the houses come in, they're going to be a burden on the system. Is there any additional income that can be drawn to offset these expenses? Because we know we need these expenses increase here or there, but you got to offset it with the increases. I'm not counting you. Now you need to go both up. So what out there is to help the town increase in income? I mean, is that an answer that can be given? Is it a breakdown of some sort?
I can show you just on page 3, if any of you are holding that document, there should be, that page gives a broad overview, and I'm also looking to Ms. Menard, our financial director. That is a broad overview of the money that comes in.
And is that
I'm aware from the, listening to the assessors, that in this past fiscal year, there was a bump in real estate growth.
So you mean
I'm not
sales of
hearing that the
houses?
same bump is, we're going to see that again this year. So though we may have gained some increase there in real estate valuations, it doesn't sound
Right, so
to
the
me.
houses are being assessed higher, so that tax is going up.
But there was more sales, more building too, as well.
Right. And like Mr. Butler had said, what about really look at the change in the businesses? Increase businesses. I'm not trying to make a burden to businesses, but there's got to be that, someone's got to be manning the store. If we can't keep the services that we have, because I'm very impressed with the services we have compared to Long Meadow, Hamden, Wilbraham. We have them all. They're limited. We shouldn't be increasing like that. We have to find offsets.
You're correct.
Increases in salaries. Do they have to be done now? I mean, we have a new town manager. That's brand new to us. Does she need an increase every year? I'm not trying to pick and choose, but it's got to be looked across the board. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other comments? Oh, coming this way, okay. I think we should try to spend a little bit of time answering some questions, because I don't think we could solve.
Good evening. My name is Timmy Flanagan, 34 Maplehurst Avenue. I guess I'm probably a newbie. I've only been here about 10 years. I moved here with my daughter for the school, which many of you probably did as well. I do believe the schools, I believe the fire and the police do an excellent job. I think you guys are doing the best job you can do as well. But it seems like every year the taxes do seem to be going up, and I do understand that to a point. But it seems this increase is going to put us pretty close to Long Meadow, and this is not Long Meadow, nor do I want it to be Long Meadow. But what I want to know is, what are we doing to create more people and businesses to want to come in our town? Do we have a program to try to lure businesses in, to get better taxes? And it's a double-edged sword. I don't think you can raise taxes and then expect the business to want to come in here. So is there something on the table to try to do, to try to lure these businesses in so we can get a higher tax base rather than just focus on me and the residential folks? That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
I guess I just learned that the businesses pay the same tax rate as
That's
citizens,
correct.
right? Why is that? That's outrageous. You should tax them a little bit more. I mean, I'm self-employed, I pay like a 15% rate. It's, you know, tax the businesses more, you know? I mean, I understand we might want more businesses, but I don't, and I question that rationale too. Why do we need more businesses in town? It's already congested. You know, no, it's not Longmeadow, but increase taxes for the businesses so that we can all benefit and we can get a nice school for our kids, and I don't have to send them to some private school. You know, that's just outrageous to me for what that's worth, you know?
Thank you. Other comments? Hearing none, I will, we still have a little bit of time unless folks are inclined to leave. I'm willing to take a stab at some of these questions now with help from the council and some of our department heads to try to give you a quick turnaround time for this. Some of the questions I can say might not be able to be answered on the spot tonight, but we can certainly give our best effort for that. So, Mr. O'Connor, you were taking notes on the questions?
A lot of notes, yeah.
Can I look at those?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Kathy, are you going to close the public hearing?
I don't know if I want to
Probably.
close it because some of the responses may,
You can still listen to the responses.
pardon me?
You can still listen to the responses.
Okay. All right, so it looks like the recommendation from my colleagues is to close the public hearing, but continue with the council's responses to that. So going forward, in the order that they were posed to us.
We need to vote on closing the public hearing.
Okay, you're right. I'm trying to have a lot of moving parts on this table tonight. I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Second. So moved.
Motion's been made and seconded to close the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the first question is, and I suspect that this may take a little more time to provide to you, is a breakdown of full-time employees versus part-time employees as to number and costs. Is Ms. Starks is
Cost by department.
cost by department
For 3 years.
for
Right,
3
the
years.
last 3 years.
Got it.
But that info we will have to get,
Right.
we'll have to get to you. Actually, we can report it at the next council meeting. Any of these things we can report.
The second one from Mr. Thompson was, did the council give direction to the manager about what they felt was an acceptable tax rate? And unless somebody wants to jump in and answer
I'd
that.
like to jump in for 1 minute. Being a member of our finance committee, we were handed a draft budget, and we build our budget from the bottom up. So rather than picking an arbitrary number, we'd like to look at what we have to work with, contractual obligations, and then proceed to what we feel is essential to either maintain the quality of the town or improve on where we currently are. But again, we're building it from the bottom up, so we won't have a number until we finish, and we've been diligently meeting, as Ms. Hill stated, at least 3 times a week, and we're still working the process, and I'm very confident that we'll be able to deliver you something that will be south of 2207.
Kathy,
Mr. Ford.
Can you, or do you remember what if we did a zero budget plus contractual obligations, what would that have moved the mill rate? Do you remember what that was?
I don't know that we ever saw anything on that. We did,
We have documentation on it.
on
don't have it with
a
me.
0%?
Yeah, 0% with just contracts was.
And that's where
The
we're
initial
starting.
The question from Mr. Ford is, back when, in the chronology of the budget development, we, as a council, asked the manager to give the instructions to the department heads to submit a 0% budget and whatever number represented contractual obligations. And Mr. Manley is searching for that number.
I know we have, we can get it. I mean,
Yeah,
we can
get
have
it.
I don't know that I have it with me, but.
And that is a data point that I know the Financial Oversight Committee has been asking for from our finance director as well. There were two comments regarding consideration of a split tax rate. That those comments are noted, and it's certainly something the council will have to deliberate with our Board of Assessors when the time comes again.
Kathy,
Can I add something to that?
Kathy, yeah, go ahead.
I would encourage anyone to stop in the assessor's office. I did the same back when we were looking at this. They have great paperwork and great explanations on the pros and cons of both scenarios, but it's very well laid out and very easy to make a decision once you look at that paperwork.
Yeah, I would echo that sentiment, sorry, through the chair, Kathy.
Yes.
So we've voted on that 3 times so far, and unfortunately, we don't hear much from the residents. They don't come to those meetings, but it's something that we do take into consideration. We hear from the people that have businesses in this community. They show up to that meeting, and if you raise their taxes, they're going to raise the cost of doing business to you in this town. There's lots of towns that have split rates. As long as I'm on this council, I won't vote for a split rate, and there's a lot of logic behind it, and I'm happy to sit down and have a discussion with anybody if you prefer. But we also have the chamber president who comes and presents at that meeting as well. So there's a lot of information that we've processed there, and I don't see any reason why you put undue burden on the town, on the businesses in town, because they'll pack up and leave. So it is a fine balance. I just don't think it's worth putting an undue burden on them. We are trying to do the best we can with the services that we have. And I know we've gotten a lot of comments, you're probably going to get to it, about adding positions. We added ambulance service to this town. It's providing a tremendous service to it. Most of you may or may not know that AMR was providing what they call a $0 contract, which meant that they were sitting in town waiting for services. They weren't doing this because they're a not-for-profit. They were doing it because they were making money on our residents. We felt we could do a better job delivering services to the town residents by controlling that aspect of it, and I think we're doing an exemplary job. It's generating income. So yes, we added net positions, but we're also generating income, and soon to be, that'll be something that's essentially funding itself. It's well on its way to doing that. So when you look at, while there's a lot of new positions that we're requesting, some of them, like the school department is requesting services for net new positions, and when you look at it on the surface, it sounds like, oh, they're just adding bodies. But they're doing it for a reason. We're sending kids out of our district. That costs the town a ridiculous amount of money. So by providing the services in town, we now do not have to pay for out-of-town services. That is another position that I think is essentially pays for itself. The way that their services are provided for through the school department, they need those positions in order to keep the money in town. So they're either going to send the check out to another district, or they're going to keep the services in town, which I would venture to guess, and I'll defer to Kathy, that parents that have children that need those services that we have to then ship to other towns would prefer their children to stay in town. So there's more to it than just a budget line item. And this is the worst part of my job, unequivocally. I stress about it like I know everyone else does. It basically consumes us. For the last 5 months, the last 3 months in particular, we're meeting almost weekly, and we don't take it lightly. So I know everyone's fixated on what they're hearing, and they're consuming information from the Facebook page, but nobody ever said that we were going to approve 100% of what was proposed. I think I can speak for myself. There's no chance that I would do that, and others probably feel the same. So it's going to be more than last year, but it'll definitely be less than what people are expecting it to be.
There's other external factors at play over which we have no control. The increase annually that in healthcare costs that the entire country struggles with. The state in the last fiscal year came forward with a mandate to all towns that they had to do a better job with mitigating the effects of stormwater runoff. And it's an unfunded mandate, but we have to do it. And so one of the speakers made reference to that. You will see a $25 per residence increase on the next tax bill coming forward. The DPW worked diligently to find the lowest point number possible to be able to run a stormwater division to meet the state mandate. But we're looking at probably upwards of a $500,000 obligation now that's been placed on a town of our size to mitigate the runoff of stormwater. In addition to that, the Massachusetts raised the minimum wage to $12 an hour in January. Again, that's not a funded mandate. And so all municipalities had to look at all employees and adjust accordingly. And in doing so, because the difference between the minimum wage paid to an individual versus what an individual in the a bargaining unit was made, it compressed the differential, and we were required to make adjustments inside of the bargaining contracts. Those are some of the silent killers, if you will, of the budget, that even if we added nothing that's been recommended, those three factors alone are going to push up the tax rate, and we have absolutely no control over that. So again, some of these moving parts that we're referring to are imposed upon us as a government, a local government.
President Hill, could I also add, your sewer and water rates are going up, and that is because of a pass-through from Springfield Sewer and Water that we absolutely have no control over. Their rates are going up, they just pass those on to us.
Right.
And just to clarify, they're rebuilding the infrastructure, which helps deliver the water to the outlying communities, so it's not just an arbitrary addition.
It's a lot of capital.
There's
They need a lot
serious
of capital.
capital
They're
infrastructure
improving their infrastructure, which improves water delivery and quality, but nothing is cheap, and they have alerted their the communities that take water from them that over the foreseeable future, those rates are going up 30%. Everybody has to have water. I mean, we're in a catch-22 with some of it. Some of the things that make our budget larger from one year to the next. But I, for one, who am ex officio on this subcommittee, hear you loud and clear about growing the government by increase of positions, looking at a consideration for what would a split tax rate do, considering a hiring freeze, as well as, and this will take some elongated study, what would be the financial impact of giving an incentive to residents who have lived here for a considerable amount of time and reached the age of 70, and could they receive a flat or some way to capture some tax relief for them. I'm sure there's some resources out there that will help us project those kind of numbers, but that is going to take longer than a couple of weeks to put together.
That would be probably a year process. I've done it before, and it has been successful, where there is a way to do a formula. It's an application kind of process that the seniors have to apply, and there are certain parameters put in place. But I'm familiar with it. I have done it in the past. So that's one of the things that I highlighted.
One of the problems that we have is working within the $25 mill rate. That is the absolute cap. People can't do a 2.5 override on it as well. That's the Niagara River. And as the closer we start getting to that, we hear it. Our friends in Longmeadow are at 24 and change. It's impossible for them to have something like this where they're going to come in and say, I want to increase by a dollar something, because they don't have the dollar something. They have the highest tax rate in the state, and $25 is the state cap. This group, since we got here, has been working tremendously to try to increase services, make the town even more attractive, at the same time trying to be mindful of the mill rate. The mill rate in 2016, if my memory serves me, was a little north of $21. 21.30, 21 something like that?
The projected.
Yeah.
Projected.
Yeah. Right now, it's at $20.50, 55 cents. So my point is, it's tough to get the message out of what we're trying to do. We're all fighting, because back in the day, we all remember town meeting. And and people would come in, let's say they had the school or some project or whatever, and the $60 million budget would just had a couple people speaking on it and get passed, just like that. And then they would try to move Article 27 quicker because they had things to do, people to see, and they would vote on it and so forth. There have been an incredible amount of time put on by the council and subcommittees trying to do what's right. And I can tell you, if you guys watch television, you saw our first reaction to that $22 number. We're all going, no, that's not happening. You can ask, but that's not happening. We can't have this happen. And our history, again, has been to bring the number south. Now, there's certain limiting factors. And one of the things I absolutely hate about this business is the state doing unfunded mandates. You got to do this, but we're not going to give you the money for it. Find a way. And so that's a big challenge, as they mentioned before. Now, people were talking also about what are we trying to do for businesses? Because an empty business doesn't do any of us any good. And what we just did in executive session, and I'm not at liberty to go into more detail, is not the first instance, but it's another instance of creating a tax incentive for a business to make capital improvements to the town of East Longmeadow property and get them to come over here from another community or another state. So we are trying to fill empty buildings with people that are going to be paying taxes as opposed to leaving them alone. So anyhow, I just wanted to let you guys know that we are working our best, because here's another thing that I mentioned again. If you guys are watching the TV, because this is my point. Is anyone here from the Reminder? Is anyone here from the Republican? Western Mass News, Channel 40, 22. Nobody covers us anymore. ESPN. No, but nobody's covering us anymore, folks. We have to come up with creative ways. Robocalling, Facebook, the Reminder, which is a thinner paper and got sold to the Republican. It's a new normal. There's such big events that nobody sees, nobody is aware. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to get improved services of a community of our size. And as Councilor Ford mentioned, we have a new ambulance service, and that is a money maker, because instead of AMR billing insurance companies, the town of East Longmeadow is. And we are trying to find ways to fill our empty businesses, because guess what? A business doesn't draw people into the school systems. It pays tax. It's cash plus. So I like to think that we're working the best we can with the limitations and these damn unfunded mandates. But like I said, history will speak to itself. The tax rate when this started, the tax rate now. And we don't want to get anywhere further north of that, because, I wouldn't want to be the town manager of Long Meadow, or administrator.
He doesn't either.
I know, you guys were ahead of me on that one, spoiler alert. The reason, because you have this much before you hit that magic number, and we don't want to get close to that magic number, because you guys point out there's going to be some big potential things that could be happening in East Long Meadow regarding whether the state will give us money for chip in for a school or not. We don't know, but we try. You know, and we try, and I like to say, East Long Meadow for how many years in a row has been voted the best community to live in, and the fact that we're all here, we all echo that remark. So thank you guys for showing up, and get the word out, because nothing ticks me off more than going to a meeting and having nobody there. Because we got some stuff that people are trying to talk to us about that involves zone changes. Another thing about a project that would be the biggest project in the history of our town, but what is the impact of it? And there's zero media coverage, zero. So we count on the worker bees out there to get the word out to people, because the fact that you're here means the message somehow got to you. There's better ways to improve that message, and we're on it, but we also need a good system of networking so everybody can find out, because we do represent you guys, proudly, you know, beyond just watching us on TV. And we're here for you guys, and we're going to do our damnedest not to make that number hit 22. So thank you.
For the most part, we've touched on all the questions that the speakers have answered.
I have a couple that I noted.
Just let me finish. With the exception of what Ms. Menard has to get us in terms of the profile of full-time and part-time and its impact of increases over 3 years.
One's a really easy one. Kathy Hood?
Yes.
Asked what happens next for the public. And I think while you have everybody here, if you just tell them what the next couple meetings are about.
Okay, so the next, what happens after tonight, tomorrow morning at 10:30, the Financial Oversight Committee meets again, as well as on Friday. And then probably, and I don't want to put words in the chair's mouth, but I'm sensing we'll probably have to meet again on Monday in order to be in a position for that committee to come back next Tuesday evening to sit before us and offer us something that we can react to. They have the charge to come back with a realistic number that we, as representatives of you, can hang our hat on. That said, then the council will listen to the recommendation and deliberate on it and give instructions to the manager and the finance director based on a particular mill rate, tax rate number, and a final document will come before us for two weeks from this evening, at which time we will vote that in as the official operational budget going forward on July 20th. So those are the immediate next steps. I would encourage you, if your schedules allow, to come back on the 21st to hear the recommendations from the subcommittee. I assure you, we will not be discussing a $22.07 tax rate to vote into funding. Ms. Menard.
One person, sorry, I don't remember who asked the question, but they asked how far are we from...
You have to get into the mic, Sarah.
One person asked how far
we are from the levy.
debt exclusion. Our debt exclusion is approximately 31 cents of our current tax rate.
Do you need to hear that again? 31 cents of our current tax rate equals the proportion of our debt exclusion. I have another question. I believe it was asked before, and I don't want to give an answer that's incorrect. How close are we to the levy limit?
Depends if you're at 2207 or not. 2207.
While she's doing that calculation, I have another question.
$2.93.
Right, I understand, but we have to translate that too into hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Let me come back and have that for the next one.
Okay.
I don't want to make mistakes.
There was a question, Mr. Sean Shea Connor Shea
Connor.
asked about the wage study.
Yes.
And the wage study was actually a contracted obligation within a union prior to this form of government, that the union asked for the wage study to be done. The town was obligated by contract to do it. It was done so that we could follow the contract obligation, and we got a grant to also supplement as long as we had a lot of the studying going on. We got an additional $25,000 from a community compact grant so that we could do the management side at the same time. So it was, it wasn't just a bright idea that we thought we'd just do that study. Thank you for asking.
I just have one additional comment at some point. I'd just like the general public to know that the Financial Subcommittee has a number in mind. In other words, to move the mill rate down approximately 25 cents, you need to strip $500,000 off the budget.
So that's a formula that we look at when we say how much can we cut, and if you cut $1 million, that drops your tax rate by 50 cents. So that metric is what we keep in mind as we review expenses and, excuse me, look for places to make recommendations for cuts. Yes, sir, you come up to the microphone, please.
Good evening. I'm Rocco Carabetta from Redstone Drive. I just have a question. Can we submit questions to this committee for answers in the 21st meeting? Because I just received the town budget tonight, so I'd like to review it and then propose questions to be answered at the next meeting.
The answer is yes. Anybody, if you have a question that has occurred to you this evening or tomorrow, whatever, if you would drop them off to the town clerk.
Okay.
In the clerk's office, and he will get those right out to the subcommittee, and we will address those next Tuesday evening.
Okay, my other question is, I see that some of the meetings are scheduled at 10:30 in the morning. I would not expect any attendance at those meetings for those of us that have to work for a living. In order for us to pay these higher taxes, we have to work.
Understood.
So at 10:30 in the morning, I can't be at any meeting.
They are being filmed by LCAT, so there is, and those are subcommittee meetings.
But we can't participate in the meeting
Yes,
if we're working.
correct. I understand that. You're correct.
Yeah, Captain, I want to clarify what it means to show up at a subcommittee meeting.
Right.
They can speak that.
Just for clarification, the speaker is asking about, can people attend the 10:30 meeting? The answer is yes, but it's a subcommittee meeting, and we are not allowed to take public input. You can certainly listen, and we are required by open meeting law to make them open, and Mr. Mackey from LCAT is taping all of those, but we cannot take input from the public at that time. However, if you do have subsequent questions that occur to you, would you kindly get those to the clerk? If I suppose you could call them in if you're willing to identify yourself and call in the question to the clerk if that helps in your daily schedule.
Emails?
Email. You can email them to the clerk, thomas.florence@eastlongmeadowma.gov. Anything else? Okay, then the council takes all of this under advisement as well as the subcommittee. And that said, we will move along to back to our agenda. We are back to item 9D, new business summary, which are action items for the next meeting. And just, Don?
The only thing, if we can get the next meeting is we had a meeting of the Planning Matters Subcommittee concerning requested zone change on Zero Pease Road, and we have a recommendation, and whether that's going to be on our next meeting or not, if we can get that in the pipeline, that would be great. I'm waiting to review the minutes from it, so if I could see those, but I just want to make sure it's not forgotten.
Right, okay.
Would it be a report, or would it require a vote of the council?
It's going to require a vote.
Yeah, well, I mean, our recommendation you'll have, but I just want to read the minutes and have that as part of our subcommittee
That
minutes.
wouldn't be the 21st, it'll be the 28th.
No, it'll have to be later.
28th,
It'll be the 28th.
But it's for somewhere in the pipeline, so
Yes.
it's not forgotten.
And obviously, Sarah and Denise, the questions that you're going to follow up on with information.
Right.
And if you have those earlier than the 21st, I would urge you to give those to the Financial Oversight Committee as quickly as you
Can we
can.
get them too?
Pardon me?
Can we have them send them to us too?
Sure,
Or we
Yeah.
have them?
absolutely. Okay, seeing no other business on the agenda, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Of course, no one. We are adjourned at 7:25, and we will be back in session again on Tuesday, May 21st, 2019. Thank you, everyone, and good evening.